Hi friends, my name is Aqil Ahmed and in this particular video tutorial I will show you how to load file with valid date in the file name using SSIS. So recently I got a question from one of my subscriber Anil Tech Bro, and he asked like he has some CSV files like business hyphen 2022 1006, and then he has some another file like business hyphen 2022 10 and some other files as well. So what he wants is that if we have the valid date in the file name, then the SSIS package should only load those kind of files, and rest of the file the SSIS package should reject. So what I thought is that if a file is valid, like if the file contains the correct date, the valid date in it, then we can import the file into a SQL Server table, and we will also insert a record into it audit log table that the file has been loaded with the number of records, whatever number of records will be loaded, and then we will move the file to a destination directory, maybe to the process directory. And suppose if the file is not valid, then the file should be moved to an rejected directory, and a record should be inserted to the audit log table that the file has been rejected, and the 0 number of records are inserted. So that's kind of thing that I want is. So let's see how we can do that using SSIS. So let's jump to the demo. In my D files location, I got three files: business-2022-05, business-2022-12, and then business-2022-05-12. So if you see the last file, business-2022-05-12, so this is the file which contains the correct date in it. So only this file should be loaded, and rest of the two files should be rejected. So I have created two folders here: the rejected folder, which is empty as of now, and then I have created another folder, processed, which is also empty. So the good files should be moved to the processed folder, and the bad files like these two files, they should be moved to the rejected folder. Okay, alright, so let me open the SQL Server Management Studio now. So I will be using two tables here. The first table will be the business table. So this particular table will contain the actual data from the CSV file, and then we have the audit log table as well. So the audit log table will contain the auditing information like the package name, file path, records inserted, status. Status means like file has been loaded or file has been rejected. And there is a dated column, so it will contain the current date time and the package will run. So we will insert one record to this particular table for each file. So as of now the audit log table is empty and the business table is also empty. So let me just configure the SSIS package. So this is my blank SSIS package that I will be using today, and because we want to deal with the files, and we also want to know like if the file is good or it is bad, or like how many records got inserted, and what is the destination directory for the good files, and what will be the destination directory for the rejected file. So all these kind of things, they will be dynamic, so we need to create some SSIS variables here. So first of all, let me just create some SSIS variables here. So the first SSIS variable that I will create is, it will be file path. So I can just declare a variable here, and the data type of the variable will be string, and then I need to give an initial value to the file path SSIS variable. So maybe I can copy any value from here, the valid path, and I can paste it here. Now another variable I will declare is file status, like it is whether the status is good or bad. So maybe initially I can provide a value as bad, so that if the value is bad, then it won't process the file. Now another variable I can declare is records inserted, like how many records are inserted by each file. And then the directory path, dash directory path. Okay, so the dash directory path will be the path for the good file. So once a file will be processed, then the file will be moved to the process directory. So I can copy the path from here, and then I can create another variable for the rejected file. So I am creating the variable just to make the package dynamic, so that you can just change the value of these particular variables and it will work fine. Otherwise you can just hard code the value for these particular directories, but I don't think that will be a good practice. So that's why I'm just making some variables here to make the process smoother and dynamic. So I can copy the path of the rejected folder from here, and I can paste the value here. So now I have created the variables for different cases. Now I can just close this one, And because we want to loop through a particular file, so I can just drag and drop the for each loop container into the data flow task. And now I can configure the for each loop container, and because we need to loop through a particular directory, so we will be using a for each file enumerator. File enumerator is used to loop through directory, and the for each loop ADU enumerator is used to loop through multiple records in a SQL Server table. So from the folder I will select the directory where our CSV files are situated. So our file exists at the D file location, so I will select this particular location. If you see the type of the file, so the file are of type .csv, so that's why I can provide the values star.csv, so it will only loop through the CSV file. Now I can click on the variable mapping, and from here I can select the file path. So when the for each loop container will run, then for each file the value of the file path will be assigned to the file path SSIS variable. Now I can click on OK. So our for each loop container has been configured, and now we can just use the data flow task to load the data from a flat file to a SQL Server table. So maybe I can call it as like load data, and I can configure this one. Because our source is a CSV file, so we can just drag and drop the flat file source into the data flow task. I can click new to create the new flat file connection manager, and I can call my connection manager as flat file, and then I can browse the file. So the file type is CSV, so I will select the CSV from here, and then I can select any file from here. If I click on preview, so I can see the data. So the data seems good here. I can see the good data in all the columns, so I can click on OK. Now because we want to know how many records have been imported, so we can use the row count transformation here. So I can just drag and drop the row count transformation, and then I can connect the flat file source with the row count transformation, and then I can configure the row count transformation here. I can select the SSIS variable records inserted, which is of type int32, so that when the file will be loaded, so whatever number of records will be loaded from flat file to the SQL Server table, the total number of records, the count will be inserted to this SSIS variable records inserted. So I can click on OK, and now I can just use a OLEDB destination to insert the data to a SQL Server table, and then I can connect the row count transformation with the OLEDB destination, and then I can configure the OLEDB destination here. Click new to create a new OLEDB connection manager. I want to insert the data to the test database on SQL Server 2019 instance, and we already have a connection here, so I can select the connection and click on OK. Now from data access mode I will select table or view fast load, and then I can select the table. So my table name is business, so I can select the table from here, and now I can go to the mappings, and now we can see that input columns have been mapped with the destination columns, so I can click on OK. So most of the things are good here. The thing is, as of now the flat file connection manager is hard coded, so we need to make the connection manager as dynamic, because for each file the value of the flat file connection manager should change. So we can make the connection manager dynamic by clicking on the expressions and then setting the value of the connection string, and the value should be assigned from the flat file path. So there is a variable file path, so we can just drag and drop the file path here and then click on OK. So what will happen when the for each loop container will run, the value of the file path will change, and that's why the flat file connection manager will also change. So now this is dynamic. Now what I want is that after a good file has been loaded, then the file should be moved to the process directories. So we can use the file system task to move a good file to the process directory. So I can just drag and drop the file system task into this particular for each loop container, and then I can connect the data flow task with the file system task, and I can call this particular file system task as move good file, and then I can configure this one. So I can right click on it and click on edit. Now from the operation we will select the move file operation, because we want to move the file. Under source connection manager we can select the source connection. So we already have a connection flat file, so we can select this connection. And now under destination connection, is destination path variable? So we can click yes, because there is a variable which contains the destination path, and then we can select that particular variable. So the variable name is the des directory. Override destination file, yes. So if there is a file already exists, then it will override that file. So this is good. Now I can click on OK. So we have configured the data flow task, file system task. Now as soon as a file has been moved, then we want to just insert a record into the audit log table. that the file has been loaded and how many records got inserted. So I can connect the file system task with the execute SQL task, and I can call the execute SQL task as log, and then I can right click and configure this one. I can select the connection manager, the test connection manager here, and now because we want to use the file path SSIS variable and records inserted SSIS variable in the insert query, so we will go to the expressions, and from the expressions we will write the insert query. So we will select the SQL statement source property from here, and then here we need to write the insert query. So we need to write the insert query between two double quotes. So I can put two double quotes here, and then we need to write the insert query here. Okay, so let me select the data from the audit log, and let me write an insert query here. Insert into audit log, select package name. So our package name is, I think, package.dtsx. so you can provide any package name, whatever package name is, and then the file path. So we need to provide the file path here, and then records inserted, how many records got inserted, status like file has been loaded, and then the time when the file was loaded. So I can copy this particular insert query from here, and then I can paste it here. Now there are two things that we need to make the dynamic. The first one is the file path. So the value of the file path, it will come from the SSIS variable. So I will put double quote plus plus double quote, and then I can just drag and drop the file path SSIS variable here. Okay, and then for the records inserted, we will put double quote plus plus double quote, and then we can just drag and drop the records inserted SSIS variable here. Now because the records inserted SSIS variable is of type integer, so we need to typecast it to string. So I can write dt underscore wstr comma 12. So now the int32 variable will be converted to the string. So now this is good. Now I can click on evaluate expression. So this seems good, and now I can click on OK, OK, OK. So this will work fine for all the good files. Okay, now we need to decide if the file is a good file or it is a bad file. Okay, so I can just drag and drop the script task for that particular thing, and then what I can do, I can actually connect the script task with this particular data flow task. Okay, and then now let's write the code inside the script task. So I can just right click on the script task, and from the read only variable I will select the file path, because I want to read the file value, and then we need to decide if the file is a good file or it is a bad file. And now inside the read write variable I will select the file status, because as soon as I will know like if the file is good file or bad file, then I will assign the value to the file status. So I will assign either good or bad, either of the one value to the file status. Now I can click on edit script, so that it will open the script editor for me. Alright, so the script editor has been opened, and I actually already written some code here, so I can just copy and paste the code here. I will share this code with you, and whatever code I'm using I can share that with you, so that you can use it in your environment, and maybe I can just explain you what I'm doing here. Okay, so in this line I'm just declaring a variable here of the current date time, and then I'm using a log folder here. So in case if this particular script fails, then it will create a text file at this particular location, and the actual error message will be inserted to this particular location in a new flat file. Okay, and then what I'm doing here in the try block, that I have declared a local variable file status here, and the initial value I have provided is as bad. So initially the file status will be bad, and then we will check if the file status will be good, then we will assign the value as good, otherwise it will remain as bad. Okay, now in this particular line we are actually getting the file path from the SSIS variable and assigning to a local variable. Okay, and now what we are doing, we are actually replacing the .csv from the file path. Okay, so if you see here in the end we have like .csv. So first we will remove this .csv, and then what we will do, we will check the right 8 digits from this particular file, and then we will see if the right 8 digit are a valid date or not. So suppose if the right 8 digit is not a valid date, then it means that the file is not valid, and we will reject the file. And in case if the right 8 digit is a valid date, then we will process that particular file. Okay, so that's what we are doing here. So in this particular line we are just replacing the .csv with a blank string, and then in this particular line we are actually getting the right 8-digit characters from the file path. And then here we are just checking, we are doing a try parse exact method here, that we are checking if this particular, if the right 8-digit value, if it is a valid date, then we will set the file status to good, otherwise it will leave as bad, and then we will assign this particular value file status to the SSIS variable file status. So after this particular script task, there will be a correct value into the file status, either it will be bad or it will be good, and then we will proceed accordingly. So this particular code, it is showing that it is missing some of the namespaces, so I can hover my mouse here and then I can click on show potential fixes, use system.globalization, and then I can hover my mouse on stream writer class as well, show potential fixes using system.io. So now all the errors are gone. So what will happen in case if any error will occur here, then a new file error log underscore current date time dot log will be created, and the actual error message will be written to that particular file. So this can be beneficial in some scenarios. Okay, so now I think we are good here, so I can just close this one and I can go back to the SSIS package, click OK. So this will save the code inside the script task. So maybe I can call this particular script task as like check if good file. Okay, now what we need to do is that after checking and before actually loading the file, on the precedence constants we can right click on it, click on edit, and then from here under evaluation operation you can select expression and constants, and then here we need to write a condition like if file status equal to good. So if the file will be good, only then we will load the file. So we can click on OK. So if the file will be good, then we will load the file, we'll move the file to the process directly, and we'll insert a record to the SQL Server table. Now in case if the file is bad, then we won't load the file, but we will move the file to the rejected directory. So I can call it as a rejected file. Okay, and then I can just drag and drop the rejected file system task into the for each loop container, and I can just connect the script task with this particular task, and I can write a condition here, click on edit, expression and constants, and then I can write a condition like if file status equal to bad. Okay, if file is not good, then I can click on OK. So if the file will be bad, then what we will do, I can just configure the file system task, so the source file will be moved as well, but now it will be moved to the rejected directory. So I have already created a rejected directory SSIS variable, so now we will move the file to the rejected directory, and rest of the settings will remain as it is. So now I can click on OK, and now we will log the detail as well to the SQL Server table, but with a slight change. So I can call this particular task as log rejected file. Okay, and then I can just drag and drop into the for each loop container, and I can connect the rejected file with the log rejected file, and then I can configure this one. Under expressions, I need to slightly change this particular thing, and if you see here, the file path will be same, and instead of the records inserted values, we will put a value as 0 because the file has been rejected, so no data has been loaded. And instead of this value like file has been loaded, we will write file has been rejected. Okay, so I can write file has been rejected. I can click on evaluate expression, so this is good. Now I can click on OK. So our SSIS package is completely ready now, and if you go to the D files location, so right now there are 3 files. One file is good file, 2 files should be the rejected file. So after the execution of the SSIS package, 2 files should be moved to the rejected folder, and 1 file should be moved to the processed folder. Okay, so this is fine. Now I can go back to the SSMS, and right now the business table is empty and the audit log table is also empty. So we are all set to run the SSIS package. Now let me start running the SSIS package and see what happens. So the package ran fine, and now I can go back to the D files location. So as of now there is no file in this particular directory, and I can check the rejected directory. So the 2 files have been moved to this particular location, and I can check the process directory. So 1 file has been moved to this particular location. So this is good. Now I can go back to the SSMS, and I can check the audit log table. So if you see here, this particular file, this has been rejected, and the second file, it is also rejected, and the good file, it has been loaded and it has inserted 1000 records. So this is working absolutely perfect, like whatever we thought, and it has loaded the data as well to the SQL Server table. Yeah, so I think this is what we wanted. So I think that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching the video, and if you like the video, then please click the like button. Do subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon and click on all so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much.